In this video, we'll see how to solve two-step equations. Let's look at the guidelines for solving equations. Remember, the goal is to find the value of the variable by getting it alone on one side of the equation. We're going to simplify each side of the equation, use the distributive property or combine like terms if it's necessary. Want to get the variable term alone on one side of the equation by zeroing out the constant on the variable side. And we want to isolate the variable, right, which means we want to make the coefficient 1 by dividing by the coefficient, or another way to say that is multiplying by its reciprocal. And then we want to check our work by substituting our answer back into the original equation. So in this equation here, negative 12 minus 3n equals 42. Right? Negative 12 here is the constant that is on my variable side. So this is where I want to start. And so I think to myself, well, how can I zero out negative 12? I think about the additive inverse property. The opposite of negative 12 is a positive 12, so I'm going to add 12. And that will zero out my constant on the variable side. And then what I do to one side of the equation, I must do the other. So 42 plus 12 is 54. And then on the left side of this equation, I have negative 3n equals 54. Do not forget about that negative sign there. And next, I want to get the variable all by itself. I want to isolate it. I want to make the coefficient 1. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 will give me a positive 1n. And 54 divided by negative 3 is negative 18. I can check my work by taking negative 12 minus 3 times negative 18. And I should get an answer of positive 42 if I did this right. So negative 12 minus 3 times negative 18 is 54, negative 54, and that's equal to 42. 12 minus a negative 54, negative 12 plus 54 is equal to 42. And that's true. Negative 12 plus 54 is 42. So it checks out. Here are some more sample problems. We can take a look at 10 plus n over negative 7 equals 14. 10 is the constant on my variable side. I want to start here. It's a positive 10. So I want to subtract 10 from this side of the equal sign. But I must also subtract 10 from the other side. On the left side, I'm left with n over negative 7. And 14 minus 10 is 4. And I bring down my equal sign here. How do I get my variable all by itself? N is being divided by a negative 7. So in order to make the coefficient 1, I want to do the inverse of dividing by negative 7, which is multiplying by negative 7. But I also must do the same thing on the other side of the equal sign. So negative 7 and negative 7 will cancel out, leaving me with n is equal to negative 28. I can check my work. I will check my work by substituting that negative 28 in for n. So I get 10 plus negative 28 over negative 7 equals 14. 10 plus negative 28 over negative 7 is 4. And 10 plus 4 is 14, so it checks out. This next example here, I want to again start with a constant that's on my variable side. So I have a negative 4 here. To zero that out, I want to add 4 to the right side, but I also must add 4 to the left side of the equal sign. I'm left with 84 equals not 3x, but it's got to be negative 3x. You need that negative sign there. I want to divide both sides by the coefficient, negative 3. Negative 3x divided by negative 3 is just x. And 84 divided by negative 3 is negative 28. Okay, let's check our work for this one. I am going to substitute my answer, negative 28, for x. So I have negative 4 minus 3 times negative 28. 3 times negative 28 is negative 84. So I have negative 4 minus a negative 84, which is really negative 4 plus 84, which is equal to 80. So that checks out. Finally, in my last example here, I want to focus on my 2 because that's the constant on the variable side. And I'm going to subtract 2 from the left side, so I also want to subtract 2 from the right side. I get 14/3 m is equal to negative 1/2 minus 2, which is just negative 2.5. I'm going to change that to an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2, so I get negative 5/2. So now I have a negative 5/2 equal to 14/3 m. I want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So multiply both sides by 3/14. These all cancel out, so my coefficient of m is 1. And a negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And 2 times 14 is 28. So m is equal to negative 15/28. I want to check my work by substituting back into the original equation. So I'll take 14/3 times negative 15/28 plus 2. And if I'm correct, I should get negative 1/2 as my answer. I'm going to cross reduce first. 3 goes into 3 once. It goes into negative 15, negative 5 times. 14 goes into 14 once, and it'll go into 28 twice. So I have negative 5/2 plus 2. I'm going to change negative 5/2. I can change that to a mixed number. 2 goes into 5 2 times with 1 left over. So I've got a negative 2.5 plus 2. Negative 2.5 plus 2 is negative 1/2. So this checks out. So here are some practice problems for you to do on your own. Write them down, practice them, hit pause, and then once you're done, hit play, and we'll go through the examples. Okay, now that you've practiced these, let's start up with our examples here. I'm going to subtract the constant from the variable side. So 3 is my constant there. I'm going to subtract that on both sides. N over 3 equals negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. Since n is being divided by 3, I want to multiply both sides by 3. 3 times n over 3 is just n, and negative 9 times 3 is negative 27. To check this, I'm going to take my 3, and I'm going to add negative 27 over 3 to that. Well, that's just equal to 3 plus negative 9, which is equal to negative 6. So that checks out. My next example here, the negative 3 is my constant on the variable side. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3m equals 63. Divide both sides by the coefficient of negative 3. I get m is equal to negative 21. To check my work, I'm going to take negative 3 times m, which is negative 21, and I'm going to subtract 3. Negative 3 times negative 21 is positive 63. Minus 3 is 60. And finally, I have 16/9 x minus 5/3 equals negative 11/9. First thing I want to do is I want to eliminate my constant on the variable side. So I'm going to add 5/3 to both sides of the equal sign. I'm going to change 5/3 here so it has a common denominator with negative 11/9. So that's going to be 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 5 is 15. So now I've got negative 11/9 plus 15/9. Negative 11 plus 15, that's a positive 4/9. And then I'm left with 16/9 x on the left side of my equal sign. I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 16/9, which is 9/16. The reason I do that is because 16/9 is my coefficient, and I want to get my coefficient equal to 1, so I multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm just left with x on the left side. Also multiply by 9/16 on the right side there. Cross reduce where possible. And 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. X is equal to 1/4. I'm going to check this out by substituting that 1/4 in for x. 16/9 times 1/4 minus 5/3. I should get negative 11/9 if I did this right. I'm going to cross reduce. So now I have 4/9 minus 5/3. I need common denominators. 4/9 minus 15/9. 4/9 minus 15/9, negative 11/9. So this one checks out. That's how we solve two-step equations.